The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Teal. You're really going to enjoy today's guest. John Stokinger is the Senior Business Development Manager at Hopper Homes, and Mateo Bradford is the Director of Strategic Development at Ease Rental. Together, they host a podcast called No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, which gives the listeners an unfiltered look into the global vacation rental and short-term rental industry with a focus on news and culture. Have fun. Welcome, you guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great. So we usually start with people's stories, and I know you guys have separate stories, but somehow they came together to form this podcast. And so I'd love to hear about how that happened and how you got into this space in the first place, the short-term rental space. Which of you would like to go first?
Mateo always tells our story of meeting the best, so I'll let him tell this.
I like to start the show with a bang.
Yeah, so John and I met back. So we both were new to the short-term rental, vacation rental space. And we met at a conference in Pigeon Forge, or up in the Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, right. Pigeon Forge. We were at an industry conference, and we used to call ourselves, forgive us, like, no disrespect to people within this space, but since we were both on the vendor side of the business, I was working for a company called Rented at the time, and John was working for, you were with Ascent. Yeah. And so, all of the vendors kind of commingled and hung out together, and then, we would have, drinks and stuff at the bar afterwards, and John and I, we all kind of just hit it off, and, from conference to conference to conference, we used to call it the Carney circuit. Like, we would always hang out, and we would, nobody was like, we saw these similarities of, like, nobody intended to get into this business. Nobody intended to get into this space.
That's cute.
And,
how did this happen?
But we would have, we would get together afterwards at the bar, at restaurants, and we would have these amazing conversations about our lives and our journeys and what brought us together, what brought us to this space. Very colorful people with really fascinating backgrounds that were in the midst of a changing, I would say, a changing industry. But, we were having just real conversations about what was going on in the industry, about our products, about, the people who, were our peers, colleagues, and people we were learning about and looking up to. And, we just continued to have these conversations. And then, during 2020, John and I talked about it. He was like, this is cool. Like, there's got to be a way for us to be able to do that.
No one else was really doing it.
No one was
right. There was lots of tips and tricks podcasts out there. There's lots of how to make more money, how to be successful in Airbnb. You could list 20 different podcasts that are how to better and how to make more money and how to be, from point A to point B, and how to get there faster and quicker and more seamless. But no one was really talking about the people. No one was really talking about the culture and like the fabric of short-term rentals.
Right.
And that's what
maybe they're still not, except for you guys.
That's why there's an opening,
Yeah, we saw that, one of the best things that one of the things we loved about being in this industry, and it was kind of like everyone just agreed about, like, getting into hospitality. It was about the people, and there was so much room for growth and new ideas. And there were traditional podcasts in the industry that were very focused on separate aspects of the industry, but there was no one telling people's stories. There was no one, like John said, that was focusing on the culture. Yeah, maybe talking about the products and the current events of the days to a certain extent, but nothing like what we did and are doing with our podcast today. And we had talked about doing it for a long time, and then we just committed to doing it. And, you know, we haven't missed a week, we haven't missed a beat, and we're continuing to dive deeper and provide, you know, a platform for people to come and tell their stories, highlight their journey, and, you know, talk about the relevant goings-ons of the industry, just with an unfiltered look, as we like to say.
I think a bit to add to that, and, you know, why it's been successful is, you know, Mateo and I feed, you know, are like brothers. We are brothers. And so we feed off each other, you know, very well. And we're not afraid to ask the hard questions. We're not afraid to ask the questions that other people are. And dive into some topics that might be a little controversial, with, you know, we understand, like, we both have our own jobs where we have to keep everything on, you know, the actual jobs that pay the bills today. But, you know, so we have to, there's a fine line of what we can and cannot do. But at the same time, both of where the places that we work are super accepting of what we do. And as this, I guess it's a side hustle. But it's a blast.
But it's a side hustle that could help your jobs too. I mean, could help them get publicity if you ever mention that you work for them. I don't know if you do or not. Is that part of the show? Or
No, Eddie's and Hopper get lots of ad lib shout outs. You know, I mean, it's just our experience. I mean, it's not like we're like Hopper ding or like Eddie's ding, and like, through the conversations, one of the most important things, you know, for John and I is keeping a level of authenticity to our podcast. And, you know, that's around how we do what we do, who we interview, and also, you know, keeping a balance, you know, within the space. We're not picking sides on products. You know, we're not, you know, talking to some people and purposely not talking to others because they're, you know, not within our space, like our product lines or our companies. So we want to keep that balance respectfully. But there is an authenticity to our podcast that's very important for us to keep. And we diligently guard that.
Well, I can feel it. You know, it does feel not like a advertised podcast that's trying to definitely, you know, build a business. It's just, it's something that is really curious about what's going on in the culture and the news. You can feel that for sure.
I think a big part of it is, you know, of why we did this. It wasn't to go ahead, is because we wanted to build a podcast. It goes back to, we just wanted to get to know these people better. Like, we wanted to understand, like, the fabric of vacation rentals, like, in a deeper way that, you know, that you can't get without having these conversations. I wanted access to CEOs so that I wouldn't get access to just in my normal day to day. And I think you know, I can say without a doubt that this has opened up doors. My current position at Hopper was opened, I'm 90% sure, because of what I'm doing here, on top of what I've been, you know, what we've built in, you know, our normal work. So it's really been, you know, advantageous for us to keep this going, because, man, these people are awesome. And what they're doing is absolutely mind blowing. And, you know, if you're outside of the short-term rental and vacation rental space, and you haven't seen like the tech that's come in, and just like the amount of money that is pouring specifically into our space with VC and funding, it's astronomical. Like the amount of funding that's coming here, and what's going on in our world that most don't even know about. You think vacation rentals, you think Airbnb, and that's just one company. That's like Kleenex to us. You know, it's just one small tip of the iceberg. You know, there's so much behind the scenes that's going on that is fascinating.
Oh, I'm gonna have to start listening, because I'm one of those people that really doesn't know about all the new tech that's come, and, you know, the new businesses that are sprouting up. You know, I see them here and there on the internet, you know, and I noticed you've interviewed some of those companies that are, you know, probably competition to Airbnb, but have a little different twist. But other than that, I don't know very much about it. So what's so new and exciting? And also, who is your audience? Are they regular people that travel and stay in these short-term rentals, or is it people that are more in the business of investing? Who listens, or everybody?
I think today, I guess I'll take this. I think today, who listens, it's industry, in our industry. I mean, it's growing exponentially. Like, we've seen the past 6 months, an exponential like uptick in our listenership. And we've done a lot of things to make sure that we're going in the right direction. but we are, the property managers and the workers and, the tech space that's in our, they're listening. I wouldn't say today we're at an overall general audience. Now we have a side project we're really excited about, which we can't announce now, but that will be coming out in the fall into the holidays, which will be geared towards everybody.
Oh, fun. You're just teasing us today?
Yeah, this is just a small teaser. But the goal with this other project is to introduce the world of short-term rentals to just the average everyday Joe and Jane. That might not be, when most people think of short-term rentals, they just, they think Airbnb, and they think Verbo, and they think, oh, I stayed in this beach house, which wasn't a hotel or a condo. It was a vacation rental, right? There's multiple companies here, but the largest, one of the largest vacation rental companies in the world has over 40,000 units. 40,000.
Yeah.
When you think of, when most people think of vacation rentals, they think of individual hosts renting their home or they're renting, but most property managers that we deal with are actually professionally managed property managers that have 150, 200, 300, 1,000. We just signed a company at Hopper that has over 20,000 units.
Wow.
And we have distribution rights, we are another distribution channel for them. So like the scale of what the general public thinks or how the general public thinks, or even most like real estate investors are getting excited because they're seeing some money coming in. They're like, oh, I can turn this into a flip, or I can go ahead and turn this into an investment property. But they still, until you dip your toe in and you see what's actually like the infrastructure behind the scenes, they really have no idea.
Right.
And that's where, to answer the second part of your question, the tech development has come through. Right now, you're seeing tools that property managers can use to optimize their business and to really organize and run their business in ways where, we're talking, the difference between an operating system and a customer like management tool, like a property management software system, being the end result of someone who may have started the business on a ledger sheet or a spreadsheet. Right now they have, a software tool that they can plug into that connects them to channels like Hopper, like Eddie's, like Airbnb, like VRBO, centralizes everything, may, give them tools for their trust accounting, how to manage their operation,
their housekeeping,
the housekeeping, all of these things.
Guest communication.
Guest communication, is huge, right, in the tech space, and allowing, managers to optimize and give their teams the tools to ultimately serve these guests, right? And because of the demand of short-term and alternative accommodations, hospitality is like we'll call it, because it includes short-term, your traditional vacation rental, and all of those things. They've seen how well over the past even 10-year span that this side of hospitality is continuing to grow, to continuing to better itself, what we call the professionalization of the industry, which has got VCs and other, private equity looking at our business in a different way. Right now, they're seeing the opportunity to do well and make large margins within this business. And so you're seeing that inflow of cash from private equity and venture firms into our industry.
Right. Well, it's relatively a new business. I mean, I know it's been around a while now, but I used to live in Santa Barbara, and I had a house, and it had a guest house on one end, it had another separate entrance on one end. I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have hung on to that. It was a few blocks from the beach, and nobody was doing those types of rentals at that time. Now it's a total game changer. I know we're talking at a small scale with an individual rather than the big companies you're working with, but it's just 10 years ago it was very, very new. When you talk about technology, I was thinking in a different fashion too. I was thinking like the smart homes. Like right now I'm staying at my my daughter and son-in-law's house watching my granddog, and everything's so they know whatever I do. If I accidentally leave the refrigerator open, I'll get a text from Europe, the refrigerator's open. And I imagine that will be coming to these short-term rentals.
It's already here. It's full. It's, these property managers have access to keyless entry. They have access to thermostat, the controls. They have access to everything. There's camera, good and bad of that, but you can't have it in the house, but you can have it out of the house, knowing when people are coming and going. And it comes in handy if, you're a 2-bed, 2-bath and, sleep 6. But when they have 16 people coming through the front door, that's a problem. So a lot of this tech actually comes in there. There's noise monitoring systems. There's different things. There's a lot of, there's on our part in the professionally managed world of vacation rentals, there's need for advocacy, because there are different municipalities bringing the hammer down because of a few bad apples. So there's regulations that are coming up, and Mateo, it lives in Atlanta, and there's a ton of issues in the city of Atlanta and the metro of Atlanta that they're having to deal with, and we're seeing it all across the country. And we're trying to also bring light to the advocacy efforts and point individuals and communities in the right direction using, there's tons of resources out there that, we're happy to go ahead and point people in the right direction. But this is with all this money and with all this, the eyes on, our industry as a whole, comes, a need to go ahead and fix these problems, that are popping up in different municipalities. And, both are some of them are real, some of them are manufactured problems, because the short-term rental space is a scapegoat for what the issue actually is, and not looking at what the real reason of not enough housing or too many, there's a laundry list. I can go on forever. But that's a lot of what we do, is trying to put those, that's when you're coming into the culture, right? We're talking a culture of a community. And like how do we live in like this symbiotic relationship? Because certain communities without they're just vacation rental communities now. So what happens if you go ahead and cut that, and now that like those millions and millions of travel and dollars are no longer there? It's super deep and in depth.
It is complicated. I understand that. I moved here from Sedona. I lived there for a while, and of course, once you get those short-term rentals going, people can get more money than the long-term rentals, but then a lot of the people that live there work in shops, don't make that much money, and then they can't afford to live there. So there's both sides, and it gets complicated with all the ordinances where you can and cannot have a short-term rental. So I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that, or is it different from city to city?
I think it is. It's different from city to city. And one of the things I want to just put an exclamation mark around what John said is, like, every community is different. But, I think, when you're looking at the business or the ecosystem that our businesses provide, it is not just, we're not just, rich people within this space. Like, we have communities all over this country, from Gatlinburg to the Panhandle Coast, that are places where families go on vacation, right? And when those families go on vacation, they infuse those destinations with, with money and jobs. And, what we're seeing now is where even markets that used to just have seasonal traffic now are seeing year-round traffic, and people are staying in short-term rentals, and they're staying longer. And yes, it does, it's a changing, demographic for those communities. But, I think you have to be able to have realistic conversations about what's really happening. What are the real problems? What, like John said, are the fabricated problems? And, how as a community do you address those without, kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face?
And taking away people's rights to do what they wish with their property. That's
that's a whole different conversation. Like, especially the fight that we're having in Atlanta right now, it circles around that. But these are the questions that we as an industry have to face. And that includes all aspects of short-term rentals, vacation rentals, urban rentals.
And as an industry,
we're all in this fight together.
As an industry, most communities and most, are not opposed to regulations that benefit all. It's the regulations that are just mandated, and they're shooting from the hip, and they're not necessarily, like, we understand that there's certain practices that certain individuals or companies are doing that isn't necessarily the right way to go about doing things. And how do you go ahead and find that equal ground, that the middle line where everyone's happy? And there's a way to do it.
Well, yeah, good, because it seems like a bit of a mess right now, like at Santa Barbara, where I lived before. So they're very strict about things, but okay, you can have a short-term rental if you're this far from the beach, but if you're one block further, no, you can't do it. So it just seems kind of arbitrary.
Well, I think as a part of the conversation, John and I are different. Like we work with the professionals, and there's it's this kind of, the people who are being penalized are actually the people who should be the models. Because if you really look at what people are afraid of, they're afraid of party houses and people not being respectful to their neighborhoods and their communities. But when you look at what the professionals in this space are doing, they're the ones that you actually want to model. They're the ones who have the technology. They're the ones that, are good neighbors, right? And they're the ones that, want the same things you do. They don't want party houses, right? Party houses are bad for everyone. And, being responsible neighbors. You have organizations like VRMA and others where professionals can, come together, share tips and tricks. They share tips and tricks on how to do this responsibly, and how to do this in a way where we know we're a part of this community. We know we have an impact on this community. And we want to be a part of this conversation to bring something sensibly. And one of the best things the way that I've heard it put is, it's the TLC that you'll hear VRMA and others say, is that, the professionals are tax-paying, local, and compliant, right? And starting in that space. And I think that is the mindset that professionals bring. And that's why the professionals should be pushed up as the model in these, regardless of what your market is. And keeping it local, let them make a decision, but let's do it with all voices at the table, and let's do it in a sensible way to where we are making sure that, people's livelihoods aren't being affected on either side, whether you're living there as a resident or whether, you have businesses within that space and you're just working to be a good neighbor.
Right. Well, you guys work with professionals, it sounds like, most often, or that's who you communicate with, but just the whole space in general has become so creative. Come camp in my backyard, it's just like, come stay at my vineyard. There's just so many different ways, and that's got to benefit people who need to make a little extra money and that are helping out someone who wants to have a very different kind of a vacation, go to the farm. Is that part of the whole fabric of what you guys represent?
100%.
Yeah, it is.
It's all, and we talk a lot about professionally managed, but it's all part of this fabric, right? There's, you have to look at these individual hosts, and you can look at an individual host truly has anywhere 10, 20, even up to 30 units. I think the differentiator that most distribution channels, and that's what both Mateo and I work our day jobs doing, are, you look at it is, are they running software to run their business, or are they just pushing to a channel like, say, Airbnb or like a host or a Vrbo without having software running it? I guess that's the differentiator. Are they professional or not? Overall, everyone has more of a tech stack now, and they're like and I hate even making the differentiator between professional and unprofessional, because overall now, everything's been raised to where this is the standard. You have access to these tools, whether you're using a software or not. And overall, the bar is so much higher now. If you want to actually compete, you have to operate at this standard.
And to be fair, the industry sees that. Like, a lot of the tools, there are a lot of tools in place to give those hosts, or what we call hosts, the tools to manage professionally now, to connect to multiple channels, to use software to run like a business, to run like the bigger management companies do, regardless of their inventory size, at a rate that's affordable. So like, it's that focus that technology and progression is bringing to the space, but it's also us being inclusive of them and understanding that, yes, the person with 2 homes or 2 listings, or the guy with 100 listings, are all in the same boat at the end of the day, especially when you're looking at regulatory issues and other things that affect our industry as a whole. Like, we have to be on the same page and pushing towards, these standards, because that's what the communities are looking for. They want to know whether you're, keeping your generational vineyard down the street or, your condo somewhere in the middle of a beach city, that the professionalization is there, that we're on the same page, that they are focused on, doing the best job that they can, not just for their guests, but also as professionals in the space.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that this business is only going to keep just exploding and growing. Do you guys agree?
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
It's,
Wow.
every week we're seeing like a new company get an influx of cash. Just this last week, a property management software company, Guesty, they just get $170 million raise. And they're one of 30 property management software. There's hundreds, but there's one of 30 prevalent software, property management software companies, working here in the US alone. And 170 million is not a small amount of money. And
Not to
and
me
they're
anyway.
maybe to some, but not, and their goal and all these companies' goals is to go and better, again, keep raising that bar, keep think of, a lot of times we have to put ourselves in the, in the place of a guest, put in yourself in the mind of a guest. So it's that user experience, it's that guest experience. Whether you're staying at a hotel, or you're staying at a vacation rental, you almost expect the same type of things now. Like you want the same type of service, you want clean sheet, you want, we're all in hospitality, right? And, and in real estate investors, they are building spec homes specifically now to go ahead to become vacation rentals. And so they're thinking about the guest and user experience right from the beginning. And, without thinking of that, we're going down the wrong path. But all this money and all this influx and all, everything we're doing, I think, COVID had a lot to do with, most people had experienced a vacation rental pre-COVID, or maybe half the people. Now I'd say most everyone has had an opportunity or been exposed to vacation rentals, because when everyone was afraid to go and stay at a hotel, they all went, all went ahead and got a family home where they could go and get away from it all. Especially lived in a city, you wanted to get out of the city, get out of the elevators, get to a home. You could work remote. This digital nomad lifestyle now where everyone's working remote, like we're doing this via a Zoom call, right?
And John, one of the things I think we did not note is we've only been talking about the US. Like this industry spans the globe. Well, it spans the globe. So you have to think about, people renting their homes and renting rooms in their homes this has been a business since homes have been in existence. And just as markets in the US are very different, you think about global markets in Europe and all over the world, this didn't just start. Like this is, and they're in this progression as well, especially with this new world that we live in, where, to add to what John said, you have people now that have only experienced vacation rentals or short-term rentals. They may not have spent time in hotels, right? Like they may not have been on their family trips. Like hotels to them, may seem like a business travel thing. Like
interesting. I was going to ask you,
you have a whole generation that's traveling differently.
Has it affected the hotel business yet? I mean, hurt them, and has it affected the business in that way?
It has made them aware that they need to pivot.
They've lifted an eyebrow.
And so they're pivoting and they're building more suite style with kitchenettes, and they're making there are certain brands within, higher brands like Hyatt and Marriott, stuff like that are putting up brands that are definitely geared towards the vacation rental buyer or vacation rental stayer. So they're very aware of what we're doing in the space, and they obviously have a ton of money to go ahead and build that out as well.
Sure. Well, of course, as you mentioned, people think of Airbnb and Vrbo, automatically. Are there some new businesses coming up on the horizon that you think we need to take note of that are doing something different or special from the others?
Well, I think this is a great segue for us to talk about our businesses,
Yes.
which I guess I'll go first. As I work for Hopper, Hopper Homes Vertical specifically, and we are in a travel OTA. We started with flights years and years ago with 95% accuracy. We can go ahead and predict flight prices. This has gone ahead and evolved into a booking engine where you can go ahead and book. And I'm sure 95% of people that are listening to this podcast right now have at least seen or heard of and used Hopper. So Hopper, we're flights, hotels, and cars. We decided to go ahead and bring homes or vacation rentals into our product offering. So of January of this year, we came on to the space with 2 million homes. Mm-hmm. I got hired with Hopper back in October of last year, and we're building out a very competitive model to the Airbnbs and the Verbos, with high aspirations of being the go-to travel app, super app, if you would, for the world globally. So my role with the company is to go ahead and acquire more direct supply, or supply from property managers and from hosts and from all different ways, to give more access to homes, because there are 80 million downloaded users on Hopper that are booking flights and hotels and cars, and now it pops up on the app that, oh, I can get a vacation rental. Wow. So I'm going to go ahead and check that out, and then I'm going to book that. So, where Hopper is a little bit different, some of that there's millions and millions of daily users already built into the ecosystem. And the big differentiator, I think, there's tons, and I don't want to spend the whole podcast talking about it, but the big differentiators, I would say, would be it's a closed user group. Mm-hmm. So we're not competing with marketing dollars. We are an app, and we're an app only. Mm-hmm. So we're not competing for pay-per-click, SEO, that kind of stuff with different markets. So property managers are more apt to go, oh, okay, I'm not competing with my marketing dollars already here. These are just potential new eyes on my inventory. And then what we're bringing with fintech, so financial technologies. I guess that's the big thing that we're known for. So it's things like price freeze, cancel for any reason, buy now, pay later. These are things that are
things. Yeah, that differentiates you from the others, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's kind of what Hopper brings to the table.
Cool. I got to check it out, because actually when I was, doing a little research on you, I was like, well, is that related to the flight app? Hopper, I thought must be, but I really didn't know. I have to go on and download the app. I might have it, actually. I think I have booked once on Hopper. So yeah.
Yeah. And you earn carrot cash too, which is, you got cute little bunnies, and you earn carrot cash, which is,
very cute graphics. And Mateo, what about at ease?
So I think one of the trends that you're seeing in the industry now, managers want diversification. So you're seeing niche travel sites pop up that could be specialized, from anything to LGBTQ travelers to travelers who may have accessibility issues. There's some tremendous sites that are growing out of that, and our site at Ease actually grew out of that niche space. We are a OTA, or a booking platform, that only services federal government travelers, veterans, their families, first responders. So think in the model of USAA, in terms of also having a closed group in which we serve. But most people don't know that if the government is paying for your travel, you can't book on third-party platforms like Airbnb, VRBO, whether they're moving, whether they're training, whether they're going somewhere, they can book it for their personal. And so long story short, our founder, Anthony Gant, is a Marine with 22 years of service who just got out in March. He has a family of 6, which means it's a traveling family of 8. And he actually rented a short-term rental while he was moving, because his base housing wasn't ready. Had a great home with a pool. Was a great experience for his family, until they found out that they were not going to be reimbursed for that stay, because you can't do that. And so that opportunity turned into At Ease, where we are a platform that will vet properties, ensure that they fit the federal government housing standard, and list those properties, hotels, and any other accommodation that our traveling demographic may need. So we started within that space. We do work with hotels, but we are actually in the process of building our portfolio of vacation rental homes that really allows us to offer them to those travelers in a safe, vetted way, and making sure that they will always get their reimbursement if they book through our platform.
That's so great. And, because you're working with veterans, are a lot of them especially equipped for handicaps and that sort of thing?
So it just depends on, so the majority of our travelers are still families who are either active duty or, or family members of someone who is active duty. But, the collective beauty of our industry is, we are friends with someone who has a niche site that does focus on the accessibility issues, because we had no idea. It's a huge thing.
It is much bigger than I was thinking. It is huge. I love the name, by the way, At Ease, because of the double meaning, I'm going to be at ease, but it's at ease. So.
So I got to give Anthony, and Anthony came up with that on his own. He is the military and government side of the business. I am the real estate and short-term rental side of the business. So no, it's a wonderful idea, and it's a mission-driven. Really, our company's really mission-driven, and coming from his experience, we hire spouses. We are really building something that, yes, we want it to function, but we also know that there is this kind of altruistic, we want to solve this problem for families so that they have the options. Moving is hard, right? Staying in short-term accommodations should be easy. You shouldn't be forced to hotels or other things, just because it's not, someone didn't approve of it. We want to make that process easy for those families and take that stress off their plate.
Wow. Well, I feel like you guys have enlightened me a lot. I know I have a lot more to learn. Do you have anything to add, with the consideration that many people that will be watching this are in the real estate business of some sort? They may be investors, they may be realtors, they may be brokers, they may be coaches. Is there any special messages that you think would be good to add at the end of this, so that they would like to know?
Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing is, the industry's growing. There's room for all. Where I think as an industry we don't have room for is those that just shoot from the hip and making assumptions. Educate yourself, go ahead and introduce yourself as, hey, I'm a developer, I'm an investor. Feel free to go ahead and reach out to either one of us, as we have a ton of connections in the space all across the world. We could point you in the right direction. I think that just, educate yourself about regulations. There's so many things, but just educate yourself. There's opportunity to make a ton of money, and in the whole point that there's a gentleman in our space that harps a lot about the importance of, we're here building memories. We're giving memories to families, right? And so it's important as a whole that we, as a whole, as a community, as a vacation rental industry, that we're doing it correctly, because the whole point is people come and stay in these properties to build memories, to make memories with their families. And so if we do it all right, and we play within the rules, we can all, make a lot of money together. There's a lot of money to be made here if we play nice together. And that's what I love about the space too, is it's super collaborative.
Right.
I guess that's where I have to say about it.
I would echo that. I think education is the best thing that you can do. And, I learn so much every week in this industry. I learn so much, all the time. I feel like I'm continuously learning within this space. But to people who are looking at getting into this, there is a huge difference between, whatever business you were running before in terms of like theory and practicality, because we are in hospitality, which means, being profitable in this space is a little bit different than other businesses. It's not just a cash flow sheet at the end of the day. You actually have to be servicing guests. You have to make decisions that are smart business decisions, but, ensuring that you're not, cutting off your customer supply, or not, putting in things that are going to drive customers away from you just because you're trying to save $1 here and there. So I would have people really ingrain themselves and understand the nature of this business, understand that this is a people business first and foremost, however you're trying to get in. And that if you don't understand that, not just theoretically, but actually,
you don't like people, probably not for you.
well, no,
you don't like unclogging toilets, probably not for you.
Again, right. Or no, but and also understanding, like, is what John said, like, people are having their memories with their families, like understanding that this is hospitality. And so if you don't understand hospitality, learn hospitality, and then you're going to still need to learn because this is a different side of hospitality. It works differently, different travelers. Ingrain yourself in what really, the aspects of your business, of what property managers do, how they do what they do, and what is important to them. Not just, I'm going to throw a bunch of money in here and, stand up a bunch of Airbnbs and expect to just cash flow them.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea. Trust me.
Right. I trust you. Yeah. So everybody, I just want to remind our listeners, it's the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast. And you guys have been wonderful, and also learned about Hopper Home and At Ease. Those were very, very interesting. What would you call them? Hospitality, short-term rental businesses. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye.